Welcome back to Cultivate and Keep. I'm Corey.
And I am Jeremy.
Jerry Spike, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Good. How's 2019 treating you so far?
It's been good. It's been busy, anticipating the big day, getting married. So
The big day.
yeah, it's been good, but a lot going on. So
A lot going on. Well, we'll get to that in a future episode. Stay tuned for that one. That one will come out after Jeremy's already married, but we're going to talk about his engagement, all that stuff. So be looking forward to that one. But really quick before we get into today's topic, we just wanted to shout out to all the people who participated in our 2-week challenge back in December. So thanks to everyone who did that. I think we had about 30 people who registered and shared it around. So thank you to every single one of you. We appreciate it. We love you guys. The winners of our 2-week challenge, first place goes to Mr. none other than Dan Dealing. It looks like you're about to make a celebratory noise.
I was going to go like, something weird, but I didn't.
Ah, dang. Okay.
But now I did.
Well, Dan Dealing is our beloved Patreon
He's popular on this
supporter.
On this podcast.
He is.
He comes up like a lot.
You know, we got to get him back on here too.
Yeah.
Dan, if you're listening, you're overdue. Actually, by the time you hear this, we'll probably be way past by the time we reach out to you. But thank you, Dan. Also, second and the third place goes to Eric Martin and Igor. So thank you guys too. We'll make sure to get that stuff to you guys.
Where are they from? We don't know them, huh?
I don't know yet. We're still talking
Some
to
of
them.
our international listeners.
Some of our international.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? Another kind of quick announcement is that over the new year, we passed 1,000 all-time downloads.
Cool.
So December is a big month for us. But also, I mean, on the same note, we have listeners in China, Japan, all over Europe, in UK, I think Brazil, and I don't know, some parts of South America. I can't remember what countries they are. So yeah, we're international, bro. Canada, Mexico, even.
Big time.
We're big time. Like 98% of it is from the U.S.
Yeah.
But like
there's like one little dot in Africa.
exactly.
One dot
Yeah,
in
it's
Europe.
literally like one person. But shout out to that one person. If you're in another country, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear your story and all the cool stuff that goes on in your life. So thanks for listening. But you ready to get into today's topic?
Let's rock.
All right. What are we talking about?
What are your New Year's resolutions, Corey?
I don't have any.
Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, today we're going to talk about kind of a start of a new year and what that means, what that looks like. I think like I was a bit overwhelmed like with all the like end of the year, like here's my 2018 in review, like all my best photos and like best accomplishments, whatever. And here's my new list of goals for the new year. And everyone's like in that mode right now. Like, what are your goals? What are your objectives for the year? So we just want to talk about that and kind of our thoughts on resolutions. I didn't want to say like we have opinions, so this isn't like the end all like official like guideline, whatever. And so we just have some thoughts we want to share from personal experience. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what we're gonna go after.
Yeah, we have very biased opinions, and in no way is this the truth. This is just kind of again our experience. So the title is saying no to New Year's resolutions. So very kind of contrarian.
Not very popular, probably.
Yeah, maybe not. Might get some flack for it, but that's okay. And admittedly, I chose the topic, but we've talked about this before. We're kind of in the same kind of mode of just like I said, it's kind of overwhelming. We did our 2018 review blog post, and we did a 2018 review podcast episode as well. And I thought that was really helpful. And I think that the reflection is maybe more helpful than like the planning and New Year's resolution stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, it kind of has me thinking. Did you read that book, The 12-Week Year, I think it is, or something like that?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it,
right?
though. Yeah.
So the idea behind that book is doing, rather than like yearly goals, doing like quarterly goals. So every 3 months you have like a new set of goals and objectives, and then you do like a review at the end of those at the end of the quarter. And so like you saying that kind of had me thinking like this year maybe I kind of want to do that, like just every few months kind of review where am I at, because that was super helpful. Like when we sat down and talked through all that and wrote our thoughts out, like it was good to kind of like measure what we did. So
yeah, because I feel like the 2018 review and like just kind of the year in review kind of posts really helped me look at all the things that went right in the year, but also like what are the things that I learned. So like the kind of format that we went through was what went well, what didn't go so well, and then what did we learn. And the what did we learn part almost like the kind of New Year's resolution kind of stuff of like going forward, here's what we're doing. But I like that format more because I feel like for most people, it's like, January 1st, set your New Year's resolution goals. February 1st, give up on them all.
Yeah.
And then December 31st, like there's no reflection at all. You just kind of go through the same cycle over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was good to do the review because I think we did that in like probably like before the 15th of December we had that done.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool like to feel ahead of the ball, like ahead of the game a little bit. 'Cause for me, most of the time, like when I set out my, goals, whatever for the year, I do it like the 29th of December, 30th. Right. And then it's, at that point, you have to kind of just bust out a list to get going.
Now you feel obligated, like, I just need to rush and like put something out there.
But this time, doing that review helped me to process and kind of think. And then when me and Connie sat down together to kind of write out a list for this year,
that's
and
cool.
we busted it out. We wrote like a lot, and we did it like as a team, whatever. And it took us maybe like an hour, and it was like a well thought out, thorough list. So it was helpful because of that review that we did.
Yeah, that's cool. So to kind of start us off, I think part of the reason why we're talking about New Year's resolutions is that they don't really have a great track record of success. Yeah. This is one of the things that no one really talks about is like everyone's always up on like what's the latest productivity hack or like life hack or like the new greatest way to build a habit or whatever it is, but no one talks about like New Year's resolutions and are they useful or are they not? The reality is just 8% of all Americans who create New Year's resolutions actually succeed and follow through. 8%. So that's not a great success rate. I don't know if there was anything else, it was like just 8% of it follows through. I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that thing. Like that sounds like a terrible bet to make. So, and it says 80% of all resolutions are given up on by February.
So like, cause it's crazy. Cause like not of just like, let's say you have 20 resolutions. That's not saying that they give up on some of them. It says all of them
all
February.
Resolutions. Yeah.
And you said that people don't talk a lot about resolutions. Well, they do. Like right now, like the first, the first few weeks of the year, it's like
it's a very popular.
Everyone's
topic in
like talking about it. Yeah, but it's true that it just dies off, and like no one seems to revisit that. It's just kind of like, and we do this. We're guilty of this, like me and you. So it's not like we're above it, but it's just crazy that that's like normal, It's like,
Well, why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. Like I was thinking, like every year I think this is abnormal. Why is it this way? And then sure enough, like next year it's the exact same thing plays out. And every year I'm like awestricken, like this is so weird. Like why does everyone get so hyped up? And then it just fades so quickly.
I almost forget about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
it's like a new year. Oh, that's right.
Why it's that way? Yeah, it's super weird. I think one of the reasons might be is like lack of planning or lack of like thought that goes into the list. I think for me this year when we did the review, like I said, it helped me to kind of process. So when I sat down to do a list, like in the past, it's kind of been like, okay, I have to create a list. So how do I do this? This year, it kind of just like flowed out of me. Like I already knew what I wanted to kind of write out.
Yeah.
Also, when you write out like a resolution or like a goal, it's like it's super objective. It has to be really clear. So it's easy to be like, oh, I want to do 100 push-ups a day, whatever. I don't know, like something crazy like that.
Yeah.
That's not that crazy, but like it's easy to write out like a very clear goal, and then maybe you didn't give it much thought. Maybe you didn't have a lot of like commitment behind that. But when you kind of think through your goals, it's easier to do ones that you're probably going to follow through with. And so I just think it kind of in short that most people sit down, bust out a list, and don't give it much thought, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then quickly after, like, oh shoot, this is pretty hard. And or we stop doing it,
Well, it's kind of like your classic like spike of motivation, so like the new year comes around and then it's like, oh, this is gonna be the year that, so we have like a lot of motivation, we're inspired, we see everyone else doing it, so we set these really lofty goals, like you said, of like, I'm gonna do 100 push-ups a day, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna climb Mount Everest, and I'm gonna buy a house, and then you stack up all these things on like your high of New Year's motivation. And in reality, like maybe there weren't even good goals for you. Like maybe they weren't realistic. And so you almost set yourself up for failure before you even go out and do those things.
Well, yeah. And some of the goals that we think of are like a goal like doing 100 push-ups a day, every day, doesn't go away. Like that's there until like next year. And so like part of it is like we choose goals sometimes that we're just like literally not going to do because it's close to impossible. Like not many people will do that unless, you're really into working out or being fit. And then other goals would be, okay, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do 100 push-ups every day for 1 month, right? So then that goal's kind of, and it's kind of what we're going to talk about, but it's a little like kind of aimless because what's the point of doing that? Like, why would you go so hard and be so uncomfortable for 30 days and then you're just back to normal? Like,
Yeah.
so that's the other side of the coin where it's like either they're unrealistic or they're kind of purposeless. You know, like what's the point of doing that?
Yeah. I think there's definitely something out there of like there's some sort of gap or lack of alignment between like what's realistic and what's meaningful and like what you actually want to do. I remember in the beginning of 2017, I had just started kind of writing on Medium a little bit, which is like kind of like a writing platform, medium.com. And so I wrote out like, I called it my 5 daily habits. And it was like it was like the most detailed, specific goals that I had ever written. I was super pumped. Like, this is going to be the year. And I wanted to implement these 5 daily things I was going to do. And it was like, I want to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I want to meditate for half an hour. I want to read for 2 hours a day. I want to exercise for an hour a day, and something else. And like that was like 15 hours of my day. So it was like basically it was just like I was kind of stacking the odds against me before I even started. And then by April, kind of classically, I just abandoned all of them. Like I wasn't getting enough sleep. I stopped exercising. I like stopped going to the gym. I like wasn't meditating. I wanted to journal too. Like I had stopped journaling by that point. But actually I found it really relieving because I felt like it was kind of like this weight like on me. Like it was just this thing kind of hanging over me. And so I kind of just like released it and was like, you know what, whatever. Like I'm just going to forget these things. And then I wrote about how I abandoned all my goals and I was really glad about it. And so kind of the realization there, that was kind of like my first like foray into my no New Year's resolutions kind of thing anymore. And I realized that especially in that season of my life, like those things just weren't possible. Like it was exactly what I just described before of like this high of motivation with no real like purpose or meaning behind it at all. And I really just romanticized the idea of all these goals and like it sounded great to like do all these things, but in reality I fell short because it wasn't actually doing something for me. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like empty in the long run. So since then that's like 2 years now. I've just been like, no more New Year's resolutions. I think they're done.
I just kind of glanced through it as you were talking.
Yeah.
Your low post.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My Medium posts. No, those are fun. I got like a few claps. I think back then there were hearts too. But I think it all has to come back to the question of why. Why are you setting the goals? Why are you doing the thing? And the reality too is like a New Year's resolution, a goal, like it doesn't matter what you call it. Everyone's going to have something else. Like, it's not like we're saying never have any goals anymore, or like never like aspire to be greater or better or do, cool things. I think it's just the mentality of now I'm going to do this thing, this really unrealistic thing that maybe I don't actually need or want to do. Has to stop. And you should really sit down to be much more purposeful about you set out to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with a lot of that. It's kind of funny. I was thinking as you were talking that like I come from a family and we are very like goal oriented people. Like my dad was like just super into it. He's like I don't think he's written a book, but he's like done a class on goals. Like he's all about goals. So for me, it's like ingrained in my mind, and I kind of grown up to be someone that sets clear and defined goals. But I mean, I think if you like the past few years, I would definitely be more along like your way of thinking of kind of, I guess what I have found is the goals are like if you're not careful, your goal can really drive all that you do, and you kind of like forget, I guess, why you're doing it. Like if you set a goal to, I use the push-up example, but like all you think about is I have to meet this goal, but you forget like why. Like, well, the why behind it is you want to be stronger, you want to be healthier, you want to be more fit, you want to just kind of feel better with about yourself, right? But you forget about all that because you're so focused on that one goal. And for me, like that's kind of what I've always found myself doing, that I set these long lists of difficult goals that I'm just distracted with trying to get it done. And then and the hard part is most of the time I fail at them because they're probably either too steep or too many. And then I start feeling like discouraged with myself. So I'm with you. I would definitely lean more on the side of kind of remembering like why are you doing the goal, and focus more on like the theme or the why like behind your goal rather than like the goal itself. And I think that's like an obvious statement we all would agree with, but it's so easy to get caught up in our goals, and that's kind of all or objectives, all we really think about. You're gonna talk.
The trouble I have too with like setting very specific goals is I think that goals are great, but I don't think that the goal is necessarily like the end point.
Mm-hmm.
I think goals are a great way to track like where you are and making sure that you're doing something even above a goal, like some sort of like we're talking about like a theme or like a purpose or like
Mm-hmm.
some sort of like state of being instead of like an end point, because goals die when you achieve them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what happens when you achieve a goal? You either set another goal,
Cross it
or
off. Yeah.
yeah, you cross it off,
Yeah.
or you don't set a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, like, achieving the goal isn't even that
Mm-hmm.
satisfying. It's like, I did my 100 push-ups of the day for the whole year. Like, great. What did that get you? You know what I mean? Like, are you any fitter? Like, do you feel better about
Mm-hmm.
yourself? Do you get a plaque and an award? Like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 100 push-ups a day should level up to, I want to be fitter, or I want to look stronger, I want to feel stronger, I want to be stronger. Or maybe it's, I need to train for this thing that I want to do. And so I just feel like goals, like, what if your goal for the year was, no more smoking,
Mm-hmm.
and then you didn't start smoking, and then you achieve that? Does that mean that the next year you get to smoke again?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's more about the person that you want to be and not necessarily the things that you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to be clear. Like, we're not saying that resolutions and goals are bad.
Right.
I think I like goals because I think it's a good way to really jumpstart ourselves into like a pattern of, good habits or good behavior. If we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to start something new, like a goal is a great way to kind of get started. I think when you were talking, it kind of came clear to me. But I'm thinking that I think more of what it should be is identifying like themes or kind of just thoughts or like a focus for the year. Then those are backed by clear objectives or clear goals. So if you want to be, let's say you want to, I want to be healthy this year. Okay, then behind that you have 3 or 4 maybe goals or just kind of subcategories of how you're going to do that. Okay, I'm going to do 10 push-ups a day, that kind of thing. And then you focus on like your overall like goal of success or your overall theme rather than just the goal itself.
Yeah, and they're more like milestones and markers.
Milestones, yeah.
Right. So if your goal is to be healthier and to be leaner, then maybe you can set some goals of, by March I want to weigh 200 pounds, by June I want to weigh 195, by August I want to weigh 190, and then by the end of the year I want to weigh 185,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my quote end weight.
Yeah.
But then like you're there to the state of being healthy. Now you can maintain that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas goals like weren't the end point. Now you can just go back to being unhealthy. Now it's kind of the beginning of your new healthy kind of set point. Now you can set some new goals of like, well, now I want to be stronger and leaner, or I want to be able to run more instead of just having it be so like superficially tied to numbers and accolades and things like that.
Yeah, me and Connie, when we sat down, like we definitely wrote out like a clear list. But the kind of this year, the way we approached it was more of like a plan for the year, like rather than being our goals. And a lot of them are still like very like like specific and you can attain them. But for us, it's kind of more of like a focus for the year. And I think that's a good way of looking at it, because if you have like something written down on paper that you're going to see often, it's a good way to kind of stay on track. And so that's like another side of it, is rather than just writing out these long list of goals, you could write out like a clear plan. So like for us, one thing we like really wanted to do this year was be intentional, and one area of being intentional was with relationships. So we like wrote down like I think 7 or 8 people. By the way, Corey, you and Monique made the cut.
Oh, we made it.
Let's go. So
I was worried.
I said let's go. No, but you guys are on there, and so we each kind of for us like chose like a few friendships we want to pursue, and then like things like getting closer like her parents, that kind of stuff. And so like that's kind of like a goal, I guess, but it's not like super defined. We just simply want to be intentional with those relationships. And so seeing that plan or that list is going to help us to remember to initiate time to hang out with you guys or that kind of stuff. And so that's a small example, but that's how most of our goals are this year, and more of like a plan, more of just like a general like reminder that we need to kind of be intentional this year about those things.
Yeah, and I think in a kind of strange way, a New Year's resolution is actually very short-term thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a year seems like a long time, and it is like comparatively to like a day or a week. But at the same time, like if you're only setting out to do something for a year, or maybe you're just setting out to do something like to focus on something for this year, like what about for the rest of your life? Like, is this not a good thing? Like if there's something that you really want to do or pursue only this year, like maybe it's not the great thing. Like what about setting out to pursue something that you do for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think some goals are like that. I would imagine for most people, I know for me, when I've had goals for the year, like my hope is that this will, compound and follow like for the next year. Like it's not
Yeah.
just gonna stop at the
Right.
end of this year. Like so for me, it's been that way. But the reality is that doesn't happen. Like we can't do all these things every year. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of like this year it ends. But you have a good point of if it's only for 1 year, like why is it even like a goal? Like what's the point
Yeah.
of expending all that energy and thought onto something that's going to be, gone after a year?
Right. So, what are some of your kind of themes, and like what have you done in place of a New Year's resolution?
Yeah, I wish that I would have brought my list. I don't have it with me.
That's okay. I mean,
I'm
just
super
off the top of your head.
But the biggest one for us, and that's another thing, we did them together. So I've never like written out a list with anyone. I mean, I always set my own goals. Connie typically hasn't set goals in the past. She does a little bit, but not how I have. And so it was super. It was encouraging to do it together. It kind of felt like we were definitely like on the same page, and it was cool. I think a good way to start our marriage off, like to have have a clear list. So first one and biggest one was being intentional, like with people, and we want to be intentional with our finances and other areas, but the main one was with people, and that one has me excited because we're both on like the same page that for us, like people in our life is what matters. Like that matters the most, like more than like finances or success or other stuff. Like all that stuff is good, but people and friendship matters the most. So that was one area. Like I said, we did set like specific financial goals or plans or themes, whatever that makes sense. So we didn't. And in the past, I've had things like save, X amount per year. This year it wasn't like that. It was a little more like incremental. So, each month, put away X amount of money towards this or towards that, or, give to, this ministry, X amount of times per year, like that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think what else. My favorite one was for sure being intentional. But I'm just thinking right now.
Oh, that's
you
good.
can start and I'll just be thinking.
Yeah, so mine actually, I think maybe Monique and I will sit down and do that. I think that's a really good idea to do it together. We've actually we've been wanting to. We just haven't gotten to it yet. She was sick last week and stuff. But one of the things that I'm focusing on is still kind of my big three questions of what habits do I want to develop to become the person I want to be. 2 is how do I be a better spiritual leader to Monique, and then 3, what steps do I take to start becoming a full-time entrepreneur. So those are still the 3 things that I'm mainly focused on. And some of the things that has me excited is, one, I downloaded this super sick app called Streaks. And this is like super cliche of me to like mention a new app for my New Year goals and stuff. But it's really cool because, it encourages, it's very focused on habits. So instead of like a to-do list where you just check it off every day, this encourages you to do things continually, and so you build a streak by like checking it off every day. So when you have a streak of like 10 going, for example, like you don't want to break your streak and then start back at 0. So it kind of gamifies it in a little way. So I downloaded this app, and I have 4 kind of big, maybe it's 5 actually, but kind of back to my daily my daily habits that I want to get done. But it's I want to walk Remy every day. I want to work out 3 times a week. I want to do my devotions 5 times a week, and I want to. Oh, it is 5 things. I want to read some sort of book, whether it's business or spiritual, in the morning 5 times a week, and then I want to do like 15 to 20 minutes of learning how to code 5 times a week. So basically just kind of weekdays. So I'm building my streaks right now. Oh, no, wait, it's 6. And I want to learn, and I'm committing to reading the Bible 5 times a week in the morning. Did I ever mention that? I feel like I did.
No, you didn't.
Maybe not. Okay.
Well, you said like read personal and like spiritual or like business, you said.
Yeah. Okay, yes. No, those very two different things. Like right now I'm reading Mere Christianity and I'm reading the Bible. It's not like I'm doing either one. So I'm building my streaks. I already broke pretty much all of them except walking the dog.
What day is it? It's the
8th. Yep.
Nice,
8
Corey.
days in. Starting strong, not really.
It is what
but
it
again,
is.
like this is the thing that gets people, they're like, oh, well, I broke my New Year's resolution. So like, guess I'm done for the year. It's like, no, like you can start. It's just a day or like this, like a month, and like the day of the month is so arbitrary. Like it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like just start again today, every day, every time. So that has me excited. And Monique and I committed to reading through the whole Bible this year.
Oh, wow.
Together. And so we're already behind on that too, but we're really excited to be doing
hard.
it together. And dude, she's killing it even more than I am. Like she's right now we're supposed to be in like Genesis 20 something and like Matthew like 6 or 7, I want to say. I'm at like Genesis 10. I'm like halfway through. I had kind of a crazy week. And but it has me really excited because we're like talking about the Bible, we're reading it together, and like we're thinking like, oh well, like we need to like go home and like read, or like I need to spend some time doing it. We do them at different times during the day, but it's fun like coming back and like, well, like, oh well, like what do you think about that, or like did you read this part? And it really is like reading kind of like a normal book together, but it's like the Bible.
That's cool.
And so it'll be kind of like my third time reading all the way through. It'll be her first time, so she has like a lot of like really like unique.
She's a newbie.
Yeah, I mean not really though. Like we just haven't read through it all. And there's certain parts she hasn't read, like everyone. But it's fun because like me kind of growing up in the church, there's things that you read or that you go through or that you read a long time ago and you just kind of forget about. And then when she reads it and goes through it, she has a totally different kind of perspective. So she's like, wait, why did that happen? I'm like, that's a good question. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we should ask someone else. We should ask someone smarter and older and wiser than us. So that's those are my like themes for the year and what I'm thinking about, what I'm working on.
My struggle with those like reading plans, it's hard for me to slow down and ask those questions because there's no time. I got to bust out 8 chapters,
I know. We just write them down, talk about them, and then like save them for later.
Yeah, that's good.
I was thinking actually we should have I have like a running list now of all the questions. We should have like Dan or Mark or someone smart come on and like answer the really tough questions of the Bible.
The ones that you can answer.
Yeah.
I thought of a few more as you were talking. Another like theme that me and Connie had was to slow down this year. We both have lived a pretty fast-paced life the last couple years, especially for me. Like things have been crazy, and so I don't want to publicly say this, but I've talked about possibly like cutting back on some ministry and just kind of like doing less because my life is so full and hers as well. And so that's one theme, slowing down, and kind of with that, and also along the lines of being intentional. But we just really want this first year to be like a year like about each other. And so we want to be intentional like with each other, and so that might mean cutting back on a few things that we do each week, so that way we can just like be together and like make dinner together and have fun. And another thing was like having more fun and like just being more lighthearted. We want to take at least like 3 weekend trips this year. Yes. Like small, not nothing extravagant, but go to a hotel for a night or go a little road trip. So 3 trips this year. I want to read 16 books this year. We'll see if I do more.
16. Yeah. What does that work out to? Like
it's like it's 3.5. It depends, like 3.5-ish weeks, kind of 3 weeks. Right around there. I'm already. I've done a book summary already. I don't really count that. And I'm already halfway through another book I'm doing. I've been reading the one thing, and it's been super good. It's better than I thought it was. You kind of like downplayed it. I felt like you were like, "Oh, it's okay," when you told me about it. But I really liked it.
I haven't read it.
Oh, maybe I thought you did.
Maybe I was talking about a different one, or maybe
because you recommended that and Essentialism.
Yeah,
I could have sworn you read the one thing.
I think I told you what I heard. I heard that they were very similar. So I loved Essentialism. I'm sure it's good though.
I did a summary on that book, Essentialism, and I listened to like a 1 hour like podcast about it, and they're really different from what I didn't fully read the whole book of Essentialism. I'm going to, but from like the summaries and then like the talks on it compared to what I've read now with the one thing, they're like really different.
Interesting. Okay.
But
you're right.
It's super good. I really like it. That, and then we also put down together. We want to pray together 4 times a week. Like at night, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then we've also talked about just like developing. We both work from home now, which is gonna be fun. So, well, maybe fun. We'll see. In our little 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
But
that's what we do too.
Right.
It is fun.
We've talked about like I'm an early person and she's not, so we've talked about like really wanting to have like mornings together and just kind of starting a day. So I'm really excited just to like get in the habit of like reading together and praying together and starting a day together. So I'm excited for this year. I think it's gonna be different than past years, and hopefully
very different.
We slow down a little bit, and it's gonna be good. I'm super excited.
That's cool. I feel like all those things were like, yeah, that's a great idea. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the other thing I feel like too with, again, I have a tendency, especially, to just like bash on things, just go on and on.
Every
and on.
like episode,
yeah,
it's
like this,
screw this, don't do this, like this is bad, like.
but like that's so good. Like that's so much. Like what you were saying is so much more refreshing than like I don't
Here's
know.
my long list of to dos. Like
Yeah,
for the year.
and
Yeah.
like I don't know, like superficial numbers, and like you said, like even things like we want to have this much saved by the end of the year. Is like I don't know. It's just like so inflexible and so rigid and like
Okay, but
legalistic.
here's
a
the
little
other
bit.
side of the coin, because as I'm thinking, like these themes we both have, they're hard
Yeah.
to measure, and so that's like another side of it.
Right.
It's like I get what you're saying in that. I don't know. It's like I think either one's so extreme. When you have like these definite goals, like you're just so caught on like achieving, but when you're on the other side of like just like a theme, then it's easy to like how do we score that? How do we measure at the end of this year when we do our review? How are we gonna know how we did? You know what I'm
I don't
saying?
know.
Like
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think especially today, and just like the times that we live in. I mean, and like with the technology that we have, like our culture, just everything that goes on, I think we tend to over measure things. And I think that that's true, like especially from my world of like technology and stuff. But even in like just everyday life, like we just always want to measure everything. And like, how well am I doing? What number am I at? It's all about numbers for some reason. And in reality, like life is much more than just numbers. And that sounds super cliche, but like I would never. And it's all like arbitrary is what I'm going to say. Like, does it really matter that like you missed your New Year's resolution goal of saving $5,000 instead of saving $6,000? Like, maybe you really enjoyed that extra $1,000 that you spent, or maybe you put it away in some sort of maybe there's some sort of emergency. Like, does it really matter that much? And I feel like you have to be flexible in some ways.
Yeah.
And then you at the end of the year you come back and you say, did I achieve these things? Yes, and I feel really good, and my relationship with the Lord is good, and my relationship with my family is good, and like maybe that's all I need to kind of be happy.
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I was kind of thinking like, it makes sense. Like for us, a theme or whatever was to slow down. Like, you can totally measure that. I mean, at the end of this year, we can see where we're at, kind of like think of the year and think like, did we slow down or did our life continue to be crazy and full? Yeah, and like I said earlier, like looking at it as like a plan for the year, like a guideline. So rather than just kind of going aimlessly, there's some structure, but it's not going to like limit you or constrain you of what you can accomplish and do. So we just have like a good plan and a kind of format for the year. So yeah, I think it's a good way of looking at it, and it's got me excited. I think in the past I've almost felt like a little bit like just kind of like, man, it's gonna be like daunting when I look at my big list. And so this year I feel more I feel more like narrowed down, like more focused, I guess, and just excited. So yeah, I mean, like, we're good. We're on the same page.
On the same page.
I just wanted to end it with a challenge. Wanted to challenge you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think that's good. I'm really excited for this year, for your year, for my year. Really exciting. I feel like life is, I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but like now that we're still young, but now like you're gonna be married, we're gonna be married, and like working jobs that we love, and like just kind of like being in the place of life where you want. It's just like so different.
I felt like for a long time it's been working towards like what we want, what I want.
Yeah.
I've always kind of felt that. Always kind of felt like I'm not where I want to be, and I don't feel like I've made it by any means. But like a few things I really wanted was to own a business and then to be married, and so like to finally be in like a year where like that's going to be like my everyday life is exciting. And I know that there's going to be challenges along with those, but it just feels good and encouraging to kind of, like you said, just kind of be. I feel like we're like more like living our life, like kind of like in the meat of it. And in the past, it kind of felt like, oh, in a few years from now, whatever. And so now it's like here. So it's exciting, but it's also daunting. Like it is a bit like, oh man, like this is real, this is happening, but it's good. It's good. It's exciting.
Very exciting.
It's natural. So.
All right. Well, you want to take us home?
I would love to. I love taking us home. Hop in the car. Let's go.
Okay.
A little weird.
Creepy.
Anyway, well, guys, thanks for listening. Appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions or want to have us discuss any future topics, please reach out. Email us at cultivateandkeep.com, or you can reach out through Instagram, which we need to pick up our game on, Facebook. Anyway, point is reach out and let's be active. Let's communicate. And other than that, let's make it a good year.
All right.
Bada
Peace out.
boom, pop.